You're listening to a Least Important Things miniseries. Welcome to Podcast Impossible, a special rewatch miniseries from Least Important Things, where we accept the mission of watching every Mission Impossible movie leading up to the 7th installment in the series. Our task is to investigate the improbable influence of this franchise on culture, cinema, and Tom Cruise's legacy. Well, friends, I am currently in my 2011 Subaru Outback. I'm at a park and ride in Zeeland, Michigan. I drove up from Chicago today. This is Friday the 14th. And I'm about to see Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 with Mike Wynne and some special guests. So Mike's picking me up from the park and ride. Just got done with about a 2-hour drive. And then we have another 45-minute drive to the nearest IMAX cinema in the western part of Michigan. But I haven't been this excited for a movie in quite some time, and I'm thrilled to do it with you, the listener, and my good friend Mike Wynne, and some special guests, which you'll soon hear from. So I'm waiting for Mike to pull in and take me, and I'm going to restart my car because it's, I think it's like 90 degrees here in the Midwest summer. Holy crap. I'm sweating already. I just, oh my gosh. Okay, there we go. Let's blast this AC. All right, friends, I think Mike is about to pull in here. I see his car. He's pulling in. He's pulling on the right. He's pulling on the right side. I think he's already late. So let's see how it goes. Here we come. Hi. Hi. Hey, Mike.
Hi.
How are you feeling?
Feeling like I want you to just get in the car.
Because we're late?
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
I kind of liked the footage you were getting.
You like that?
I liked it. I mostly liked Mike's oh no, come on.
Oh, come on.
Not now, man.
Did the exact same thing for Jurassic.
Always be recording. All right, I'm in the car with Mike, and we have a special guest. It's Shannon Wynne. Wow. How did we get her, Mike? Did the budget up on this episode?
The budget had to go up. Yeah, we had to. I don't know how.
It's a huge get. It's a huge get for the show.
Yeah, it is a huge get for the show. It's kind of like, you've got Tom Cruise, okay? But can you get Cavill? Can you get Cavill for the show? And that's what we did.
And there's more guests to come. I already teased this already. Shannon, welcome to Podcast Impossible. Welcome to Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. How are you feeling? What are your nerves? What are your thoughts? What is your excitement levels for?
Yeah, very, very excited.
I can tell you're absolutely thrilled. Like, it's Friday, it's 80, it's sunny out, and you're about to go sit in a theater for almost 3 hours with your husband and his friend.
Dark. Yes, but I've been told there will be snacks. I've done my homework. I've seen every of the Impossible movies except for the one directly before this.
That should be fun.
I know. Well, I've seen it, but not recently. But I did read the bio,
So you're prepared. You're ready to go.
I'm ready. Bring it on.
We're happy to have you.
It's an honor, really, to hang with you all and be a part of this great venture that you have.
Isn't she a sport, folks? Isn't she a sport? Look at that. She's a professional. You know her from the Jurassic World episode from Jurassic Pod. We've teased her throughout the Podcast Impossible, but this isn't the only guest stars. There's more to come, which you'll have to find out after this break, which isn't really a break. Dear listener, your mission, if you choose to accept it, is to rewatch every Mission Impossible movie with Luke Ferris and Mike Wynne. Together, you'll investigate everything from Tom Cruise's running stride to the legacy of this spy action franchise. Good luck. This podcast will self-destruct in 30 seconds. So he turned 62, right?
Yeah, I think this was the first
62.
movie that I could start to tell that he was like...
You could see it.
Like, he doesn't look like he's even 40.
Was that because it was an IMAX? You really
No,
got to see all of the.
He looks all of
the
all of
crevasses.
50 years old.
Yeah. I mean, he does look. I'm just saying it was the first year I noticed. Anyways, Mike, what are you pulling up?
I'm pulling up the cast list.
It's a big cast.
Big cast.
There's a lot of names to be named.
I think.
Are we recording? Like, are we live?
I think we are.
Oh gosh,
guys, what just happened? We're recording. We're in Andy's basement. We just saw Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, Friday night opening weekend. Gentlemen, feelings, thoughts. This is going to be a raw. This is going to be a raw episode. It's going to be upfront. There's no research ahead of time. This is just pure emotion.
Yeah. So Luke, you're giving it a 15 out of 10 review.
Yeah. 35 masks. 35 and a half masks for me, Michael.
Are we giving a score right now?
No. Too soon for that. Too soon.
So we should do this for listeners of Jurassic Pod. I mean, let's have a non-spoiler section.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. I like that.
And then we'll put a section in for spoilers.
Yeah, and I'll put it in the show notes. So
do not tell anything about the Power Rangers coming in and Ursula,
which was
coming
crazy.
Out of the sea.
Ursula, I didn't expect. I did not
keep it
expect. I did not expect that.
I really, honestly didn't expect Putin to actually be the lead. Thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
he was a guy. Honestly, he was a guy. I was impressed.
He was a good guy. All right, spoiler-free reviews.
Spoiler-free.
Who wants to start?
Andy, you're our guest.
Andy, you're our host and guest.
Yeah,
I was gonna say.
Andy Warsen, welcome back to the podcast.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Let's give him a round of applause. Special guest of the show.
I'm very honored, and it was a privilege to watch it in the same movie theater as you gentlemen. I thought it was a really good movie, and it's hard to. I went into the movie. I texted this to Mike. I was like, Fallout was so good. And so my expectations were like, I don't know how to expect this one to exceed. And you can't compare them, obviously, but they're different movies.
Very different
They're
movies.
super
Yes, I agree.
different movies. And it's hard to say this one is better than the other one because they're just different in what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And so in the sense of how this one is a part one, I thought it really exceeded in that asset. Or facet. Sorry, not asset.
Well, there's a lot of assets in this movie.
That's true.
To set it up. It definitely is a first part of a two-part movie. It's not a complete vision because of that. I really enjoyed it. I had so much fun with you guys watching it. Seeing it in IMAX. I haven't seen a Mission Impossible movie in IMAX. That was impressive. Just seeing, which if you haven't seen any of the trailers, there's a very popularized advertised stunt that looks even better in IMAX. I thought there were some things that they rushed a little bit with character-wise, but overall, it was just as good as the last two movies, as far as pacing, as far as what they're trying to deliver. What separates this movie, I think, from the other ones is that I think the quote-unquote villain or the antagonist is a really big swing, but I think it really works in today's age. Like I was thinking in the movie, I was like, you know who's really upset right now? The creators of the next James Bond. Like the Broccolis are so frustrated because
they missed it.
Mission Impossible scooped the what's the future bad guy? What's the next big threat to society that spies are going to try to tackle?
Right.
And I'm really excited for part 2. I think they set it up. They gave us enough, but I think there's some twist coming for part 2.
Yeah.
Oh.
The movie was okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mike did say while we were driving here that he almost fell asleep in the first 20 minutes.
Okay, so full disclosure, that's not uncommon for me. I don't know what it is, but the last decade of my life, I've just movies that are big, loud, and actually super entertaining for me, I just keep falling asleep in. So it's not an indictment of the movie that I almost fell asleep.
But overall, even though you did almost fall asleep, you thought it was just okay.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was good. I mean, I really enjoyed it. There were certain elements of it that I thought were just awesome.
Yeah.
But you know, I wasn't expecting it to surpass Fallout. I told Luke earlier today that I had no expectations. I just wanted to be entertained, and I certainly was. But my first impression of the movie was somewhat underwhelming. Like I thought they took shortcuts, and I thought they played into some tropes that they could have avoided.
Interesting. I think it's going to be hard to judge this movie because it's a part one. I think we need to see it
Oh yeah,
complete, because I think where Fallout, Rogue Nation, the previous movies, there is a pretty strong conclusion with the antagonist, and this one was not totally open-ended. And I think that's part of the reason maybe you feel like
maybe
is that, or is it just like
No,
you
I
just
just
weren't
think-
like it just felt
I think the movie started on the wrong foot.
oh
And I thought it
Wow.
got
We might
stronger
have to
with
get
every
ins-
passing minute.
okay
So
okay
I can't wait for us to get into and discuss. But I would say people who are listening to our podcast who haven't seen the movie yet, you should still go see it, and you should see it in the biggest and
See it
loudest
in the
theater as
theaters.
possible. It's
Absolutely,
it's
It is a
100%
great
worth the
theater
money.
movie.
It's 100% super awesome. It's what you expect from this franchise. But as far as I don't know. I thought they could have made a better movie.
Interesting.
I mean, that doesn't mean I think it's a bad movie.
No, it's
I just-
okay. I think it makes sense. I think they definitely that's a firm opinion, and I think it's another episode in this franchise, and there's good, bad, there's mixture, all in there.
Yeah.
I appreciated, and maybe this is just because I was watching it with my wife and my two good friends that I'm doing a podcast with, but it made me laugh quite a bit,
Yes.
more so
Yeah.
than
Yes.
any of the
It was
other
funny.
Mission
Yes.
Impossibles. And
Yes.
it wasn't outright funny. It's not like you guys have talked about this. I haven't, but it's not like Marvel quirks and humor.
No.
It's much more subtle. It's much more dry, but it's funny. And
It's really
hits.
funny, especially for fans of the franchise. I would say
Right.
like fans of the franchise, or if you follow along and rewatched all these with us, the
jokes will land.
They will land. We laughed out loud a lot.
Yeah.
I felt a little self-conscious.
I thought they used.
Everyone assumes I'm the crazy person here. I'm like laughing.
Yeah.
There was a
Nobody
couple
in the
of things,
theater around
No
us
one
was
was laughing. No one was laughing.
There's the same was true when we watched Dominion, by the way.
That's
but
true. That's true. That's true.
I would say something that surprised me, that a risk that I think they took that I thought was really well done, was that they used Ethan more as the comic relief valve than they have in the past.
Yeah, they definitely ramped that up.
Because normally it's Benji. Like
Yeah,
normally
he was,
it's
and
Benji.
he was.
but they definitely used him as
Right.
in the situations in the action.
Right.
And Haley Atwell, I think was. I don't know if that goes into spoilers,
Yeah, a
but
little
she
bit.
was really funny too.
She's in the movie.
She's in the movie. If you didn't know, she's on the poster. Okay, so definitely go see this movie. Any last spoiler-free suggestions, thoughts?
It's not really a spoiler, but it's got all the hits. Like if you think
Yeah.
about a Mission Impossible movie, like the type of scenes that you would expect, the type of action sequences, it's all there.
It's
It's
got it
all
all.
there, ready for you.
I have I have a review from tonight that I'd like to share.
Okay.
It's not related. It has no spoilers.
Okay.
I would like to review ordering food at the movie.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Oh boy.
So this is my
So
first time.
Mike almost fell asleep at the theater, and now he's going to complain about how he ordered the food.
No.
Mike just turned 55 last week. Happy birthday, Mike.
So I ordered food in the movie theater
First mistake.
for the first time.
Right, Andy?
today.
First mistake. First mistake.
Only popcorn.
Well, I ordered popcorn as well, but we got here. Me and Shannon, we didn't eat dinner before we came, so
Long
we were just
drive.
like, we'll just order something
Yeah.
at the theater, no big deal. And I wasn't expecting anything great, but my experience was, you know what? I just don't want this food anymore. Like
when it
I
came and you saw it?
Like when it came, no. The food was fine. There was nothing wrong with the food. So if this is for you, then order food. But
Okay.
But for me, I was like, great. Now I just have this stuff, and I'm trying to watch a movie and it's dark.
What do I
in
do
here.
with this plate?
Yeah.
So my review of ordering food at the movie theater.
Don't do it.
4 out of 10. 4 out of 10. Wouldn't recommend.
I would say don't do it unless you're going to an Alamo Draft House. Is my
I've never been.
Does
which
it
can come?
So does it sound better in theory for them to bring? Because the waiter, do you call them? I'm assuming you call them waiters. He brought the food, and I was like, "Wait, is this coming to us?" I didn't realize that you had ordered food. It's just the first time I've ever seen it.
Yeah. It was like just coming down the aisle.
Yeah, so they I
brought it to your seat. That's kind of cool.
That was neat. I like that. And that I was perfectly fine with that. I expected that, but it maybe would have gone better like at Sperry's Movie House in Holland, where I live. They have little swingable tables.
Right.
That probably would have played out better.
Yeah, we were kind of packed in like sardines.
I mean, we were literally passing it like at church, like for like communion or something. That's what it was. It was like a very like, oh, no, not me. Okay, keep going down the aisle. Yeah,
so,
no cash on me today.
Yeah, so the food was fine.
Sorry.
Food was fine, but the overall, I didn't think that it enhanced my experience. And I don't ever plan on ordering food at the movie theater again.
Okay, so I understand that. Yeah, that was not the movie theater. It was an IMAX. It was a little bit older theater. Not the movie to do that. Not the theater to do that. I would say if you come visit me, we can walk to the Alamo Draft House, and the experience is going to be.
You don't
so
live
much
by
better.
an Alamo Draft House.
I
anymore.
live 10 minutes away now.
What?
Yeah, I'm walking distance.
Okay.
The Alamo Draft House in Wrigleyville.
Subtle brag.
Sponsors of no, I wish. But I think that'll change it. I agree. Like I'm a popcorn purist. Like I will not order food, but I've been to Alamo Draft House where my wife has ordered food, and it's been a delightful experience.
I don't know if you guys saw me execute the perfect movie, but we walked in and sat down, and I split up the pop. We got the large popcorn.
Yes, you got the large one
with the topper,
which I noticed. I hadn't seen that in a long time. I forgot that they have it's like a bowl on top
it's
of
a plastic
the bucket.
bowl that you get to kind of latch on to the top, and you shake up your popcorn, but you can also use it as a bowl. So I was able to eat most of the popcorn and then put the rest into my wife's, little allowance, shall we say? allowance of popcorn. And I was able to quick run to the front, get a new thing of popcorn, and get back in time for the first scene.
You did.
You were a little late. You were a little
Oh,
late.
well,
it was very funny because
it was good.
The film started. The opening shot started, and then I looked at your wife Bree, and we looked at each other, and then we looked at the empty seat, and we looked back at each other, and we both shook our head like we just assumed you weren't going to make it, but you did make it.
Popcorn.
It was a risky move, but I think it paid off in the end.
If there were 2 minutes to miss in the movie, it was those 2 minutes.
It was literally a shot of a submarine, and it was fine.
Spoilers.
Oh, sorry guys.
In the first scene, we've spoiled it.
Let's go into spoilers.
So this is a spoiler cutoff.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen the movie, go see it. Pause the podcast, get in your car, drive to the local theater, see the movie, watch the movie, order popcorn.
Do not order food.
Do not order food. Watch the movie, come back in your car, then hit play as you're driving home. And spoilers. I love the movie, and we start out with a submarine. Here's why this movie is going to always work for me and why I'm going to love it. One, we watched it together. So the media, Luke, recency bias is an issue. It's happened many times. It happened in Dominion.
Insert clip of Luke reviewing Dominion immediately after seeing it.
If you follow me on Letterboxd, which it's at Luke H. Ferris on Letterboxd, if I watch a new movie, I typically watch it with friends or I'll watch it alone. If I watch a new movie, I'm always going to have it like at least a full star higher than what I meant it to be. And then a week later, I will edit my review and it will go down a star. But I love this, especially when we started out with a submarine sequence.
Did not see it coming.
I called it.
Which I absolutely love. Did you call it?
So in the last episode...
Oh, you did.
I said that
water.
Dead Reckoning is a naval term.
Oh, you did.
And that I expect this movie to have some sort of naval reference. Not only
awesome.
that, Dead Reckoning, like the meaning of it in terms of naval, how Navy goes, is it's a way of estimating one's location at sea. Which, as for reasons that you get as you watch the movie, location is like the crux. Like nobody knows.
Yeah.
Like there's like the location of this thing of this submarine is a huge deal. And so the idea that like, I just love the double entendre that they do with the namings and like dead reckoning. Like, yes, your death is like a reckoning that you have to deal with, but also like it's literal meaning too.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I'm actually liking this movie even more because of that. Yeah, you did call it. Wow. I just opening up with a intense, sweaty submarine sequence. That is
Sweaty.
Also,
I just
would
love it.
Never catch me on a submarine.
No.
Like the worst.
But I love watching it.
Yeah,
I was recruited to be an officer on a nuclear submarine when we were seniors in college.
Were you at the job fair and they're like, you'd be great?
They called like the Navy recruiter said that he would fly me out to San Diego and Yes, he was willing to fly me out. And I would have immediately become an officer in the Navy without ever having done ROTC.
This is not real.
Or whatever.
This is not
100% real.
Totally
100% real. No. This is 100% real.
Does Shannon know this story?
Absolutely, she does.
Listeners, we can get Shannon here.
I remember telling JD
corroborate this story.
I remember telling JD.
You'd be great. You would be great.
We'll have to bring the wives down at some point anyways.
Yeah. You'd be great. You would be great. Actually, it's funny because we both know people who are officers in the Navy.
That's
you
right.
could have been one. I mean, did you mention Dead Reckoning? And he was like,
wow,
this guy.
No, I didn't.
No. But to start out with a submarine sequence, especially Soviet submarine sequence, just the way you brought it up, that it all comes back to it. I do have to say also, I did call that there would be a death of one of...
Oh, yeah, you totally did. And you saw it coming, too.
It was interesting. So, again, spoilers, Ilsa dies, which to me is the hardest part of the movie. I loved Haley Atwell. I love her work. I think she's super charismatic and just such an amazing actress. And she was toe-to-toe with Tom Cruise. She was funny. She was authentic. But I did not like how they quickly moved along Ilsa and kind of was like, oh, Haley Atwell takes her place. But Rebecca Ferguson she was probably shooting a much more important movie called Dune Part 2. So I understand it, but it
really jumped like halfway, 3/4 of the movie.
Yeah, but it's just my initial reaction. That was the one thing that was hard for me. But I did call that someone close to Ethan would die, and the entity actually wanted that to happen and predicted that. So let's talk about the baddie, the entity, which is essentially as far as we know, it's an AI software. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's an AI software created by the U.S. government that went rogue. So it's basically Ethan Hunt, an AI Ethan Hunt that went rogue and essentially is trying to... all the governments in the world are trying to take it over.
Trying to control it.
To
get it to do what they want to do, which is infiltrate everywhere else and know what everybody else's secrets are and be able to do... AI sabotage everywhere.
But the entity, what they're trying to do is cover their trail because its only source code is on the submarine, the Dead Reckoning submarine.
Yeah, that's kind of what it made it sound like.
That's what it's, and I really like this idea that, and that's why I joked about how like the creators of the Bond franchise are probably pissed because they always say that they create their plot lines and they start with the villain and they like to start about like what is 10 years down the road in the world. And like, this is exactly what they probably wanted to do in the next Bond. Like, this is exactly like what we don't know is going to happen, but like in the moment, this is like our greatest fear as humanity. It's not nuclear weapons.
I don't know.
It's technology.
To be honest, I kind of saw this as lazy.
Really?
I felt like it was just like, just pick whatever, be prisoner of the moment and pick whatever.
But what else are you supposed to do? We just did nuclear weapons.
I was going to say the escalation to me was like this took the movie, it took the franchise to a whole different level than just like a man being going to blow something up and kill billions of people.
Yeah,
like, it was different for sure
because it takes away from the human. And I also think there's more to be revealed. I thought maybe they would tease us with like, I thought, like Blue Day Chanel model baddie was like, I thought he was gonna die and then we'd see like the super baddie.
What's his name?
Gabriel.
Yeah,
Gabriel.
Gabriel's a character's
Just
name, but what's the actor's name? It's like
Esai
I mean, just
Morales.
one of the most beautiful people on the planet Earth.
Yeah, if I could look like him
Yeah.
when I'm that age.
Yeah, ooh, I mean, it was. I think that was also probably like him and Tom
with the
Cruise
sunglasses
together.
too in the airport.
Yeah.
Oh, man, the white suit.
Like him
He
and
was fit.
Tom Cruise together. It
Yeah.
was like Tom Cruise is looking a little
I
old.
know.
Yeah.
I liked him though.
I liked him a lot.
Too many Dutch tilts in this movie.
Dutch angles.
Yeah, whatever. It's just like it was, and also the first like hour of this movie is just continuous close-ups.
There was a lot of close-ups. I think you're getting IMAX a little bit. I think you're viewing it through that lens of an IMAX, where it's like that is a huge face on a huge screen.
It is, but it also is a like close up.
What's wrong with close-ups?
It just felt like a lot.
It was in your face right away.
It was in your face.
Mike's a guy that likes to, be, when he goes out on a date, he likes to be blind and dine. Get an
He doesn't
appetizer.
want it in your face right away.
Like, I don't want that fish right in front of my face right away. Give me that little,
I just slow, yeah.
little shrimp
Yeah,
cocktail,
aperitif, something nice,
little
to start the
salad,
meal.
soup.
Yeah.
Then I want the fish.
Then I want the good stuff.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, you're at a Mission
It's just,
Impossible movie.
let me just put it this way: it was distracting for me.
The beautiful faces on the screen were distracting. I get that.
We're disparaging Mike. Continue with your point.
Yes.
It was hard for me to get into the plot because I felt like the Dutch angles, the Dutch tilts kept tossing me around the screen, and I was getting a lot of close-ups at the same time.
So here's where I agree with you. There was a scene right before the final train sequence where Luther's talking to Ethan, and I don't know if it was a COVID thing where it's almost like this is very technical, but if I was shooting you guys talking right now, there's a line that you're not supposed to cross over. If I'm shooting the camera right now and I was shooting Andy talking to Mike, I would shoot him from this side. So imagine a visible line in the middle.
For our listeners that are listening to a podcast, talk about Luke
Yes.
trying to visualize.
I tried to like cinematography 101, but essentially there's a line that you don't jump over when you're editing. Like I wouldn't shoot a close up of you from this angle and then shoot a close angle of Mike from this angle because it messes with essentially your brain as a viewer. There was a weird that sequence where they were cutting from Luther and he was like looking up to the right. And then Ethan was looking like straight, and it looked like Luther was like not looking at.
So there was a couple of those, but I will say this: the cinematographer.
That's why I think it was. That's why I think it was COVID. Like I think like
that might be true.
Ving Rhames was doing his lines to nobody because of COVID.
That's that's fair. I will say the cinematographer in this movie highly accomplished. He was assistant on Fallout. He was. I mean, you name it. He's in a ton of movies as director of photography. So.
That's why I think it might be a COVID thing.
Yeah.
With that. Okay, so I want to talk about a scene that was very special to me that was actually one of my favorite part of the movies. And it ties back to the entity. We're in like not even CIA, it's like all the intelligence office.
Oh yeah, right.
And we have a ton of great actors that were just cameos. Of course, you had Carrie Ells as was he director of defense, the DOD?
No, the director of national security.
Which an incredible get to have him. He's a perfect kind of like sneaky sly guy. You had the actress, she's in Game of Thrones. She was in Mandalorian. You had comedian, I can't remember his name.
Yeah, the problem is I can't pull these up because they're so like down on the billing.
That was a great
You even
scene.
had Angela Bassett on a picture.
Yes, which you pointed out to me. You're like, it's so great because it's framed like in the background. It's so prominent.
R.I.P. I think.
I think they probably couldn't get her. They couldn't probably afford her. Good for her. But the best is like they're having this meeting in like an old warehouse where they're in the top office and then
typewriting.
Literally, there's a floor of people typewriting because essentially what they're worried about is everything that is
in the cloud
is accessible by the entity. So they need to transfer all of the national security. Any type of file or information has to be retyped. Paper.
paper.
That might have been my favorite part of the movie. I'll be honest, because I think it's actually what I love about this whole plot line, and I think it's going to pay off in part 2 is I've talked about this in the James Bond movies and just generally spy movies. It's really hard to make a compelling spy movie because of technology. Mm-hmm. So what do? Let's create the enemy and take away the power of the technology. Even the point where Luther's like, I got to go off the grid. I can't attack the entity unless I'm totally off the grid.
That's a really neat cliffhanger because we don't know where Luther is.
Yeah. How's he going to come back in part 2? We don't know.
Yeah.
It's so cool. That's why I think it's such a great idea, because it hasn't happened yet. And I'm looking at the genre at a wide lens. It has not happened. And I think it's a brilliant move. I think they could even gone further and just totally put everything off the grid. And that would have, but I liked how even Luther was like, okay, this is old AM radio frequencies. I want even more of that in part 2, because I think that was the most brilliant, high arching plot is let's take this back to just the physicality of being a spy. So I'm excited about that. I think it's only going to be better in part 2.
What I don't know. I mean, we're jumping around the movie here, but
that's okay. That's what this is for. This is a hot take. Unscripted.
One of the things I loved, there was just a moment when Luther is sharing with Ethan that he needs to leave and go away and not be part. He says, "I need to leave you now," and the look that Tom Cruise puts on it, the way Tom Cruise plays that, the way that he reacts to that, I just thought it was it made me feel like this just got a lot harder. Yeah. Because what, you're telling me I don't have Luther? Yeah, my team's good. I trust my team, but I need Luther. And if I can't have him, then that, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I loved that moment. It was just a moment, but on screen, it was really good.
That moment, I loved when they're in the airport and he's trying to figure out the essentially fake bomb, and it's asking him questions. Yeah. It's a cipher.
I was trying to guess all the answers and I didn't get any of them right.
You were very confident in one of them. I can't remember what it was, but you were really confident.
I said death or something. What's coming but never gets there.
You're like death. And it's no, it's tomorrow. But
that was an easy one too.
In that scene, Benji says, what do you care
about most? What do you care about losing the most?
My friends. And we haven't talked about this yet, but essentially this movie kind of opened up the anthology, the story of the IMF is Ethan joined the IMF because we don't know fully, but either he committed a crime or something happened. He was framed for the murder of this woman he loved, and he had to choose to be a part of IMF. It's kind of the idea that, and we've known that about Luther. Luther's kind of he's shady. He's been in and out. Every one part of the IMF is probably a former criminal or something like that, which is interesting to open up that world. It does feel very Born Identity in that way, but
Shannon was critical of this at the end of the movie, of what we're talking about how to her it felt like this backstory for Ethan was kind of concocted, and she's like, I hate that we're bringing this out now, and I justified it to her. I'm like, well, I mean, this character deserves to have a life before he joined IMF.
Yeah,
and so I can understand from one side why somebody might think they're just making stuff up, but they are. They are. Well, they certainly are. But I also think it's entirely fair for the writers to say, how did Ethan even, if you back up 30 years, how did he even get here? How do you get involved in this?
Yeah. I think we're going to learn a lot more in part 2.
Yeah, I can't wait to see. They teased it a lot, but Gabriel and Ethan's relationship and their history, they showed flashes of it, but didn't really dive too deep into it. But basically it sounded like Gabriel killed this love interest of Tom Cruise.
Yes.
Which brings up a funny moment on our way home. Bree said that my wife, for those listening, said that
this is Bree of the Bree Paradox.
Of the Bree Paradox, which will be coming later.
Which, by the way, should be the Bree Paradox. Great name for a podcast.
It should be a spin-off.
She said, has Tom ever lived the single life or Ethan, has he ever lived because he feels like he just needs to live the single life, like for a little bit.
I feel like between MI1 and 2, like his rock climbing phase, like that's very single bro. Like
Single bro.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
he was like he's rock climbing, he's got the long hair. Like that was his single era, but
By the way,
he's a lover. He's a lover.
I didn't appreciate, this is now going back to the second movie, I didn't appreciate how much of that rock climbing was practically done. Like I
was listening to Trial by Content, which is a Ringer podcast, and they were talking about how between Cruise and his stunt double, how much that was practical and how like big that was.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Crazy.
Gabriel, there's a lot left unsaid.
A lot of meat on the bone there.
There's a lot there. I love the tension between the two. One of my favorite parts of the movie is very subtle, is when they're at the airport and he kind of sees a flash of Gabriel and he just like, Ethan's like, abort, go, go, go. Like, cause you see the fear in him. And then Gabriel, the character, is really interesting because Ethan calls him out and says like, you're scared of the entity. So it's like, we don't know what's going on. Like, it's wild. It's wild.
Did this movie gave me two different vibes from two other call them action movies? Yes. One was Tenet.
That's right.
And it was when Gabriel came out of like the body chamber.
Oh yeah.
And
that
I was
was a
like,
little wild. That was a little sci-fi.
That was interesting.
Like,
like
they
the entity
didn't explain that at all. And I just assume it to be that he was getting information about how it was going to play out and what he was supposed to do to execute.
Yeah, there's a lot of this game theory of like the entity knows what's going to happen. They've and Luther's kind of like saying like
It's basically the plot of War Games.
And then that leads to the second one, which is the Avengers. So at the end of Avengers Infinity War, right, it's Doctor Strange going through the 17 billion different ways that movie could end.
And he's like,
there's only one way that works. And the AI is essentially doing the same thing. And it found the conclusion where Ethan destroys it and it's doing everything it can to stop it.
Right. That's like, if you step back from the plot, that's like the whole reason that this is all in motion is like the AI knows that there's a weakness in the submarine and he knows Ethan out of everybody is the one
person that can
stop
destroy
him.
it.
So he has to stop him through his emotional connections with his friends.
Which the other part that I don't get is how did the entity connect with Gabriel? I guess maybe we
won't know that. I feel like I think he was hand selected because of the past, but we don't know about that.
That's true.
It's yet to come. I still feel like there is another human element behind the entity. I just feel like that's
Solomon Lane. I'm just kidding.
Solomon. He's back. He's back. Okay, he did
with a larger
beard. Did he
beard.
die?
No,
he didn't die.
No, he didn't die.
I would love a Solomon back. I still think. I think part 2 they're gonna get Jeremy Renner back. I just have a feeling. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say I wanted to talk about what I thought was the most impressive part of the movie to me.
Oh, let me hear it.
It was Vanessa Kirby's acting like she was
Haley Atwell.
Haley Atwell.
Acting as her character.
Unbelievable. She
true.
was so good.
She's incredible.
Because you, as a viewer, you're like, that's Haley. Or, well, it's Grace.
Well, that's the thing. She did such a phenomenal job of convincing the audience that she wasn't her. And that's mind-blowing.
It is. Just to be able to have her in this movie and it's great because it's so easy to write her in as like she's the dealer, like she's just an arms dealer. It's so easy, but then you bring the acting power and then you use the masks. Like it was amazing.
I'm always blown away at. I think that's something when you watch these movies, you're always. The masks become a character of themselves,
right.
But
which we had a lot.
A lot.
I called the first one.
Yeah, you did. Andy called the first one when he walked into the office.
I also called it, so we were on the same wavelength there. I just didn't.
I didn't
feel like I needed to lean over and tell anybody.
Totally called it.
But I feel like that's something me as a cinema fan I always watch is how does the actor do playing somebody trying to convince
playing somebody else.
Yes. So I was just really impressed by Vanessa Kirby and her ability to like convince me that she was actually somebody else playing her. Like that's just like
So true.
unbelievable.
I really like the character of Grace too, because she was a thief, a highly skilled thief, but like she also was like, what is going on the whole time? Which I think is an honest reaction. Like she wasn't like able to
I'm
like,
glad we're getting into this.
she wasn't able to drive very well, and she's like, can you drive? Like I loved the car sequence. I thought that was brilliant.
That was one of the more hilarious parts where
so funny
because of the way that the handcuffs were, it looked like she was doing intimate things with his lower region, and just the way that it was funny.
It wasn't stick shift, was it? I don't
It's
think
a Fiat 500, so yes, it was.
But it was also
Right.
like electric. Yeah, it was. Well, it especially with
He couldn't get the car going.
there's something beautiful that when
It usually works.
a Mission Impossible movie turns into a Cialis commercial, where he's like, it usually
That
works.
is good. That is so
It
good.
was so good.
Pin it on the board.
It's so good.
That was really good.
It was that was beautiful. And you know what? I appreciate it because like Tom Cruise is 60, Haley
He's
Atwell
old.
is not like old by any means, but she's not 25.
No.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. That. It's like, okay, yeah, you could there was the chemistry but there could be problems.
Getting back to the character of Grace though, it took a lot for me watching the movie, and I don't know if this was this way for you guys. And part of it, I think, is what you were talking about, the quick transition from Ilsa, who's so superb in her
Rebecca
spy tech like ability.
Yeah.
And then you transition to Grace, who they played realistic. Like she didn't know anything besides pickpocketing, and she could kind of hold her own in a fight, but she's not going to like win any wars.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you like, I just felt as a viewer, like I'm like, do more, like be Ilsa. Yeah. And then at some point you have to accept, like, no, she's not. Like,
which is like, and I think she did a great job. I love the train sequence when which was I did not expect that, and it was when the train's falling into the
looks
gorge,
super tiring,
and they're going from train car to train car. That was a brilliant sequence. But when Ethan jumps and he's like, you have to trust me. And she's like, no. I'm going to get hit in the head by a piano. Which is like an honest reaction. Like, I do not trust you. And even like when, after Ilsa dies, which I think they could have let that be harder for Ethan, but she's like, what's your name again? Like, it was like a subtle thing that they do in these Mission Impossible movies where it's not real. It's fantastical, but like she wouldn't know who Luther's name was or Benji. Like it was a well-written character, and super interesting to pair her with Ethan. It is hard to like contrast from Ilsa, who like at the start with a sniper rifle and is just like with the eye patch. It's like Rebecca Ferguson's just like one of the coolest people. Yeah.
I think movies. There's more for who was I'm gonna have to look this up. But there was a character, one of the American agents that was chasing down Ethan and them.
Oh, we didn't
boys.
talk about.
We haven't talked about either of them.
Oh my gosh, those guys were
comical.
That actor, I can't remember. He's a great character actor. That was just like.
So the character's name was Degas, and the actor is Greg Davis. I'm sorry, I'm talking about somebody else than you are.
Well, you mean the millennial agent versus the boomer agent, and he's like trying to like speak different foreign languages, and then he just
talking about
takes his gun up. He's like move, and the other guy's like trying to speak the language and be very proper.
You're talking about Bree mentioned the same thing that I think you're about to mention, Mike.
So Shea Wingham is the character actor you're talking about, who kind of was like this agent.
I would say Jock, like a
Paris.
Yeah. No,
is that her name?
No. We're talking about somebody else. Okay. We're talking about Americans. Okay. Americans. So Shea Wingham, and he had like a junior agent on his side called Degas.
Yes, the millennial agent.
Yes.
And the boomer agent.
That guy, IMF recruit.
Yes.
It right
now.
That's
100%.
Okay. Yeah. He's the next IMF guy. The person you're talking about, Luke, was her name was Paris.
She was cool.
Character
I really like the small alley fight. That was really fun.
That was
That
neat.
was
I like
really
that.
cool.
She was very scary.
She was. I was terrified of her. Like she wasn't messing around. Like she was excited to drive that like tactical vehicle.
She's like, I'm a small human, but I have this huge vehicle, and I'm going to take out as much stuff as I
just
can
want
along the
She
way.
was just happy just to ram stuff. Like she took those like the Vespas. She was like, yes, destroy the Vespas.
How many can I get? Bowling.
Yes.
She was bowling with Vespas.
What's the Margot Robbie's character from DC?
Harley Quinn.
She had some.
She
Harley
did. She
Quinn
did have
vibes.
some. They have same energy.
She's the same actress in, I think, the Marvel Mantis.
Oh, she's Mantis.
Yeah. It's the same
No,
actress. That's what-
is
yeah.
it really?
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a pretty good pull. I didn't recognize her. I think
she's
she was
very different character.
so different, like so intense and mean. But that was cool when Ethan saved her, like didn't kill her, and then she at the end. That was nice.
Kind of sucks for her because either she was going to get killed by Ethan or she was going to get killed by Gabriel. And it was a no-win
The
situation
entity,
for
the
her.
entity.
That's tough. That's tough.
Free will. Is now a good time to bring in our additional special guests? Really, the masterminds behind this podcast, Bree and Shannon.
I feel like there's one more. Should we talk about the stunts first?
Yeah, we do.
Okay,
there's a couple more things.
Okay,
I feel like we should knock out.
That's good. This is like Ryan Seacrest. Like
Yeah.
after this special message,
So there's two.
fast forward 5 minutes.
There's
for what
two
you really want.
massive. There's two really massive, like highly publicized stunts. I mean, there's
Right.
plenty of stunts in this movie.
Right.
We talked about the car scene.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about some of the other stuff, but the two that most people would be aware of without having seen the movie are the motorcycle jump and the high speed parachuting
Yeah.
that he does at the end of the movie. So let's talk about the motorcycle jump. I think everybody saw it. It was in the trailer.
Yeah.
Everybody
There
has
was
seen
behind the
this.
scenes. Yes.
It was still way incredible to see on screen.
especially in
Amazing.
IMAX. Especially in IMAX. It was just like I get pretty curmudgeon-y about watching movies these days where I really want to see something in camera. Like I don't want to see, and I love, like I've enjoyed the Marvel movies. Like there's a lot of movies I've enjoyed that are highly CGI, blue screen, green screen, whatever. Like I think it's beautiful, but I really want to see things in camera, and to see that in IMAX, to see Tom Cruise, to see his face, to see him like nervous, to see that energy, and then to like see the shot of him obviously jumping and then following him. Like I think that there was an extra like 2 seconds of the camera following him.
Yeah.
Which I think, I can't remember if that was they had a helicopter or it was a drone, but it was like watching the Alex Honnold like documentary of him climbing El Capitan. Like that's how it felt like.
So in the trailer or in the commercial,
Teaser
essentially
thing, yeah,
commercial
yeah.
they do for the stunt, they show you the first take that they did,
Yeah.
where and in that commercial, Cruise says, "Hey, I think I can hold on to the motorcycle for a bit longer." They don't show you that.
That's
take.
right. That's right.
This is
okay, that makes sense.
This is the
That
first
makes sense.
time
Okay.
people see that take.
Yeah, you're right. There was something different about it than because like it felt longer.
Yes.
And then seeing his face, like they cut to his face where he's like, his face is like being pulled back because of the wind. It's just, it was jaw dropping.
I would say two comments on this. Number one, knowing that he did it, and it just made you appreciate, like when he was lining it up, you're like, oh my gosh, this is him in real life
Yeah.
jumping off of this cliff. Like, that's crazy. Especially when he pulls up at the start when like he's on this, like he just pulls up, he's like, Benji, like that shot, like he's on the cliff. Like they're shooting him with the cliff and it's like, oh, he's about to do that.
Yeah.
And especially when he's like, like I won't be able to make it. I'll hit the edge. There's too many, like he's explaining in the movie
What am I
how
about
difficult
to
it
do?
is. Yeah.
It's crazy. And then the second part is exactly what you were talking about, Luke, is one of the things that I think I appreciate about the Mission Impossible series is that it feels like a movie that's shot in 2010. And I don't mean that the graphics are bad.
Yeah.
But I mean it just feels realistic.
Right.
Like it feels authentic.
Yeah.
And it really helps you appreciate the movie. I don't know. And maybe that's just, it's too CGI and all the movies that we watch.
And it's part of the marketing. It's part of the whole thought process behind it. But it really is special. Like there was people gasping in the theater when they saw that.
Oh, the silence after he jumps was some of the best part. Like
great editing.
It reminded me of the silence from
Silence of the Lambs.
No, from The Last Jedi. When they go through hyperspace and it splits.
That's pretty good. I would one up with that in Half-Blood Prince right after Dumbledore dies.
Oh my gosh!
All my defenders are upstairs. I think
this is because
when does the HBO series come out? Because that's all I'm worried about.
It's because you guys talked about Harry Potter before we walked in the movie theater. It's the only reason this is coming up.
And then the other stunt is the fast gliding.
I don't know what it's called,
and we were talking about that. That was the one thing we talked about in the car. We broke the vow of silence. Is that
unbelievable?
Mike did say that feels more dangerous, and like it's something that extreme stunt people do.
Yeah,
it was wild.
There's a video on that scene. It's like 3 minutes long or whatever, and it was published before the movie came out, of course. And they talk about how dangerous that sport is. It's a sport that people do, and it's this
crazy
because they do it through valleys and through mountains. It's impossible to predict the wind, and so you have to be really careful before you even jump off the first mountain to begin this. And then you're doing spirals down where your chest is basically parallel with the ground. You're doing spirals down, and these are all high speed cornering that you're doing through valleys and through mountains. It's, to me, seems more dangerous than the cliff jump.
Yeah, it was wild, especially like to see in IMAX. You can clearly see it's Tom Cruise falling,
moving his feet,
landing, and then Simon Pegg's like just there.
He's like, "Oh, thanks for meeting me at the rendezvous."
They CGI Simon Pegg into that scene, but it
looked pretty good.
It did look good because they show you that landing from the car that the camera is on.
Oh, okay.
And there's no Simon Pegg there, obviously, because Tom Cruise needed space to land, and so they cut. Tom Cruise basically comes, throws down the parachute, and then it's a cut.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. But it looked really good. It was wild.
It was, yeah. And what I think is crazy, and I think why these movies are so, like, people love them so much, why I love them so much, is like that was totally unnecessary. Like there was
did not, especially because it was like after the like peak of the movie, like we were coming down. I mean, figuratively, literally,
he could have just pulled out a rope and repelled from the freaking train.
It like did not need to happen at all. It was the kind of at the end of the crescendo of the movie, and it was like, oh, just crazy.
He kind of even showed off a little bit. He did like a front flip off the back of the train, and just like, oh, I'm just going to parachute down here, no problem.
I do like how they set this up though with Luther. I mean, they're very intentional about it. They spend 10 seconds Luther explaining how he packed Ethan's bag on this.
Yeah.
Gave him 2 different types of chutes. And I think it was like almost like the movie saying like to the audience, like, nobody knows how this is going to go down. Like we don't even know how this is going to go down.
We don't even know if he's going to survive.
Only the entity knows.
The entity knows. Last thing on this, I kind of thought that Benji was going to like get killed right at the end. Did you guys get scared with the voiceover from we haven't talked about what's his face coming back
Kittredge.
from Kittredge. Amazing. I love bringing him back. That was a really nice move, and especially because he's kind of, you think he's bad. He's kind of bad but good. It's kind of his whole MO.
I think there's a setup here for Kittredge. Honestly,
I love bringing him back. I think it's a brilliant move. He's such a good actor.
There's a double cross coming.
He's such a good actor.
I didn't like the secretary, like the guy that they were all talking to. What was his name? He got sliced in the throat.
I actually love that scene.
Because it was a good scene.
Because it was like, oh yeah, a villain would just be like, oh, you're the only one that knows.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I'm going to kill you. And
that was easy.
I'm going to kill my henchman, which I thought was brilliant. Is like, yeah, your henchman hears everything.
Yeah.
Like they've never done that in any spy movies.
Well,
like, of course you would kill them.
So I think if we're playing chess and not checkers here, I mean, consider that Gabriel was correct. Gabriel was told, essentially, I'm guessing, by the entity that he was going to have to kill the director of national security. And then he was going to have to get Paris, basically prophesy to Paris on how this is going to work. Because Gabriel wasn't told where this submarine was.
That's true.
He was just told. So basically Gabriel is, and like it shows Gabriel being upset that Ethan has the key, but honestly, I feel like that's Gabriel's plan, is to not have the key,
or the entity's plan.
Right.
I think that was the weakness of Gabriel. I think that was a pride thing from Gabriel.
Yeah, probably, because I think the entity is really just trying to minimize risk and use Ethan to find the sub and bring the key to it.
Yeah, it's very much like if you watch Dial of Destiny, Indiana Jones, it's very much like let's have Indiana Jones find all the things, all the clues. It's very much like National Treasure. Let's have Nick Cage find all the clues so we don't have to do all the work.
I did think of National Treasure when I was like, oh my gosh, they're gonna have to go to the North Pole to find a submarine that's buried in the ice.
The secret lies with Charlotte.
So the secret lies with Charlotte. Yes, thank you. Did
not think we were going to get National Treasure reference in today's episode, but I'm really glad we
comes in everywhere.
Did you think of the Lost World Jurassic Park when the trains are falling?
Yes,
okay,
which is similar to in Fallout. They do the same thing.
Yeah.
Spielberg.
Did you guys notice we had every form of transportation here? We had planes, trains, and automobiles.
We had them all.
Planes, trains, and automobiles. Potatoes.
Yes, and we had a train calling back to the first Mission Impossible on top of the train. Which, man, they did it looked good.
That was amazing.
It was definitely a step up from the first movie.
I don't know if they were on that train in real life, but it looked good. Like it looked super real.
The tunnel scene too. Like I knew how it was gonna. I knew what the outcome of the tunnel scene was going to be. They were just going to come back on the other end, but that was stressful.
It was, especially like how they were thinking about like fighting, but then they're like, oh, the lights are coming. We shouldn't. And then
got to shift.
And how tight it was. It was good.
Last note, my favorite, I'm going to take us back. Second scene.
Ooh.
Favorite quote of the movie. The oath of the IMF. That was remember when the, pigeon carrier of the food brought Ethan the mission?
Oh, yeah.
And he asked him, like, no, you have to ask me what the question is.
The question is, yeah.
Yeah. Like, what is the oath of the IMF? And it was, you die in the shadows.
You die in the shadows to protect what you have and what you don't have.
You're the people closest to you and the people you never see.
Wow.
Huh.
Something like that.
Which is like, that's Ethan's, that's his purpose. That's why he's here.
Yeah.
That's his whole purpose. Here's the thing. Ethan has his why down, and he has his why in his vision. It's not about his like role and his career. It's about his why. And with the job market these days, you can't really like rely on a company.
Can you tell Luke
you have to
works
believe in your why and your purpose. Because your purpose will get you up to work every day and allow you to commit,
makes
and
content
have passion
for other companies.
Corporate world today will not fulfill your needs and desires.
Is Simon Sinek?
Yes, he's
podcast?
here. Yes, he's calling in.
Oh, sweet. Awesome. Excellent.
Let's go to line one.
Simon, what do you think about Ethan Hunt's why? I think he's got it down. Shall we bring in our special guest?
Let's go to the line.
Let's go to line two.
Okay, I think it's time. Listeners have been very patient. I think Andy's going to go and get our special guest. If you're listeners of the show, there's been a legend has born out of this. It's called the Brie paradox. Andy's amazing
I'm interested
wife.
to see how this goes, because the Brie paradox is supposed to be the moment that she looks up from her Kindle.
She didn't have her Kindle. She had popcorn. So essentially, the Brie paradox is the idea when Andy and Brie have been watching the movie, it's been when she looks up and is like, "This is ridiculous. This is weird. This is crazy. I'm gonna remove myself from my Kindle and make a comment that this film is ridiculous." And she was fortunate enough to give up her Friday night, a beautiful summer Friday night, to spend time sitting in a dark theater.
She's got a puppy
with us,
like an 8-week-old puppy.
8-week-old puppy. There is no conceivable reason for her to go watch this movie, but she's here with us today. It's Brie. Brie, welcome to Podcast
Hello.
Impossible. We're so happy that you're here. Speaking of, you can talk.
I know. That's what this is for?
Bree, we've labeled this as the Bree paradox. Are you aware?
I'm aware.
Okay.
Are you aware of the legend that has been born?
Yeah.
So
I listen to the podcast.
Oh, thank
Did
you.
know that?
Thank
Yeah.
you. Wow.
Thank you.
You were
That makes
shouted
one.
out.
You got one.
You got one.
Shannon does not.
No.
So we were just talking as you walk down, and thank you for having us in your lovely home. It's beautiful. About the Brie paradox is associated with a Kindle, like you're reading a Kindle while Andy's watching the movie. You look up and you make a comment. Obviously, today, I don't believe you had your Kindle in the theater,
No.
the IMAX theater. No, we didn't. We didn't. You were tempted, I'm sure. Was there a moment where you had a similar feeling of like, wow, what is happening in this movie?
Yes, there was two.
Listeners, this is huge. We
The
have
Brie
two-
paradox.
The Brie paradox. Here we go. A special episode. Two moments. Hit us.
Oh boy. Trying to remember now. They were having their meeting with the White Widow
Yes.
and trying to figure that out.
Yeah, and the rave.
She was like, yes, the rave. And she's like, one of them has to die. Or Gabriel was like, one of them has to die or is going to die. And there was a security guard behind, I think Gabriel was talking or Ethan was talking behind in the background, waiting for which one he was going to shoot. And the way he pointed a gun
Yes.
was like, that shouldn't have been the person of choice to like choose to shoot somebody. He like broke his wrist to like point the gun at somebody.
Around somebody. He was like a 5-year-old.
Yes. But he couldn't stand still either. Like before
He was so excited.
That was good.
and Andy and
That's
I
good.
talked about in the car, he did like let me squeeze past you to get around. to
He's definitely
somebody.
from the Midwest.
Excuse me. Sorry. Oops, sorry about that.
Yeah.
That person? Yes. Okay.
The problem is that agent, whatever he is, he probably just got back from his camping trip with his family up in northern Michigan.
And he's like trying to get in the zone. He's like, I'm at work. I'm excited to be here. I got a promotion.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Like
up
he was
here.
hyping himself up to
Yeah.
like for that moment.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really good. Wow. That's a good one. That is a really good one.
Thank you.
What's the second one of the
Something I noticed, I don't think I've ever seen this happen in like an action film, is Grace, when she was on the train, she pulled out a hair tie and put her hair in a ponytail.
Yeah.
Yes.
I actually liked that because it was like
Yeah,
children's business.
it's like that's exactly what I would need to do
Yeah.
if I was going to climb on a train.
Exactly. It was practical and I liked it.
That was good.
So
yeah.
is that a practical stunt?
It's a practical stunt.
Her climbing on the side of the train was practical. She put a hair tie in.
Yeah.
So thank you. Those were amazing. Any other thoughts about the movie, your experience, your emotions, walking away from this movie? How would you rate it? How would you review it?
Ooh.
In context of the other Mission Impossible movies you've seen?
I will say, watching all of these, I say quote watching because I was reading and watching.
Yeah,
We know.
As
Yeah, it's fine.
as time goes on, they got better. So this is probably the best so far.
Oh.
Um,
yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
That I'm saying that, but now I'm thinking.
How
back,
many
but-
masks would you give it?
If you had 5 masks, 5 being the best, how many masks would you give it?
I forget what I rated the other ones. I'm gonna say room for error because I know there's another one. I can't give it the best,
Wise.
so I'd say like a 4.25.
4.25
Wow.
masks.
Okay.
Wow. Amazing. Bree, thank you for being on the show. Thank you for
Thank you.
the Bree
Thank you for
Paradox.
listening.
Thank you for having us in your home and this experience. And thank you for your thoughts on the movie. I know our listeners were looking forward to this. I teased it at the start of the episode, and you came through with some amazing Bree Paradoxes. We're so thankful to have
Happy
you
to
here.
help.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Give it up for Brie.
Bree, everyone. Wow. Special guest. You're waiting for her, and she delivered with 2 amazing moments in the film. That I think
We
are
didn't
worth
even
to call
talk
out.
about the rave and how it's funny that all of the White Widow's business seems to only happen at raves.
They were
and they were wearing suits again.
Yes, they were not dressed for success there.
There was like it was the full spectrum. You had half the people at the rave in body paint and half the people at the rave in like 3-piece suits.
It was not good. We needed JD here to
break
help
it
us
down.
break down.
Yeah,
the
our
I
rave-
didn't know what
rave
that one
expert.
was. That's a Venice rave.
But JD, just know as soon as the rave happened, I leaned over to Luke and I was like, "We need your rave guy on his stat."
We need the rave guy.
Because it was kind of like it wasn't a good, like, it was empty.
It didn't look
Speaking of
super
raves,
fun.
No, I think it was a COVID rave. Everyone was in their little silos and they were just dancing by themselves.
5 foot distance.
Speaking of raves, I think it's time that we lay down some rave reviews.
Rave reviews.
So
Okay.
we got Bree's review,
a 4.25.
4.25, which we weren't present. We weren't previously allowing
But,
quarter masks, but I think with a damaged mask we can.
Yes. Well, the damage mask, and I think Bree set the precedent.
Yeah.
I think she's one of the few that is allowed to do that.
Guests can do it.
Guests can do it. Who would like to start of the mask ratings?
I think we should start with our guest.
Andy?
Yeah, in my head I had 4.5. It was not the 5 of Fallout. It was, I would say, better than most of the other movies, if not on par. I think I've only given a 4.5 to Mission Impossible 3. That's the only other 4.5 that I've provided on the series, and I'd put it right up there. Like I thought it was a really
It's
good
right,
movie.
Yeah, right on par.
It's not the best. Like I agree with you, Mike, in a lot of ways that there's some meat left on the bone, and did a couple things that were maybe seemed rushed in the beginning, but overall, very fantastic movie. Enjoyed it.
I'm going to go 4. I'm going to go 4 out of 5. I think this is setting up potentially the best Mission Impossible movie of all time in part 2. I really think part 2 is. I think this was fun, but also like the villain antagonistic plot line is actually might be my favorite outside of Mission Impossible 2, where he's trying to where he's trying to make money. where Declan is dirt poor and just
Ambrose,
not Declan. Ambrose.
I re-listened to that the other day.
I
don't think we've made better content.
I know Ambrose. Besides Mission Impossible 2, Ambrose is tough to beat. But as far as like where spy movies are, I love spy movies. They finally did something that I've been wanting. Is like, obviously it is very like present AI, totally like of the now. I get where that can feel cliche. Very
Also,
like,
submarines of the now.
submarines of the
Imploding
now. Yes,
submarines.
Yeah, that's true. But the idea that we're going to go back to the dark ages of spy networks where we're going to get the old satellites, the Russian satellites. Like, I love that. Like, if we do more of that in part 2, where they break it down, where we're like back to an analog technology, I'm going to be thrilled. So that is what I'm excited about.
I love that. They can go to backlog, analog technology, all that, but I need Tom Cruise to order an Uber for his car again.
I was trying to think of
The
a
spy Uber.
Yeah,
Spy
yeah,
Uber.
Spy Uber. I love it. Yeah, there's some entrepreneur who's like, he's totally separate. He's like, I don't work for any government. I'm just a spy Uber guy.
Spy Uber guy.
I just put him in.
I got
different
cars.
locations.
Log in. You got the app.
We do
That
need
simple.
to come
That's
up
a
with
whole
a funny
spin-off.
with a funny name for that, because that was hilarious.
That's a whole spin-off.
But it wasn't just a car, so it can't be Uber, right? Because it wasn't just a car; it was like a home or like
safe
forget, there's
house,
a
a safe car.
Like that's a whole spin-off. That might need to be like a
favorite
be a
gadget
great-
of the movie by far.
That would be a great like comedy series.
That's gonna have to be one of the when and if we do a draft. That has to be a gadget.
Yeah,
Yeah,
will be. We will
definitely.
be doing a draft before Mike does the rating. So obviously, Podcast Impossible will continue because we have part 2. But we will be doing similar to Jurassic Pod. We'll be doing a draft. I think we'll be doing a ratings episode in the interim. As we lead up, and there'll be more to come. But I'll save that for later. Mike, masks.
I'm giving it a 4 out of 5 masks.
Wow.
I don't think it's as good as Fallout.
I never
Especially-
thought
I did
we'd see
the-
the day that I'd be higher than you guys on.
Yeah, I
on
know.
Mission
No,
Impossible
I just
movie.
think. I mean, I think that there's that the possibility exists that I rewatch this and have a greater appreciation for it. But I just felt like and I 100% think it's the filming during COVID thing. There was some stuff at the beginning of the film that just it took me about 30 minutes to get into this movie.
Wow.
So I still thought it was a really good movie, especially like after I got into it. Like it was, I mean, I was in it. So 4 out of 5 masks. I thought it was just, yeah, it was an impressive feature to see. Well produced, but
This franchise, and I said this in the intro, this franchise and going through these movies, if anything, I realized how consistent this franchise is. We're like,
Except for Mission Impossible 2.
but it's a joy to watch that movie. Like you're not like you're having fun watching that movie, even
Are
though
you?
absolutely.
I laughed at the doves. It brought me joy.
Like if that's your like bad entry, like that
True.
is such a fun movie. It's so silly to watch.
This franchise delivers consistently more than any other big budget franchise.
Like I honestly cannot think of one.
And I don't need anybody saying Marvel delivers.
No.
At this
no,
point.
because like
or
yeah,
or even I mean, certainly Bond does not.
no,
Certainly Star Wars does not.
absolutely not.
Jurassic Park doesn't.
No,
No,
Jurassic
no.
Park does not.
No, it is. That's what I've been impressed rewatching these, because I've always loved these movies, but rewatching them together with you guys talking about them, it's like, dang, these are freaking consistent movies.
Yeah.
And tonight proved it.
The last question that I had for you guys, and
All
maybe
right.
they've talked about this. There's a Dead Reckoning Part 2.
Yeah.
Do they make 9, 10? Like, has Cruise put a limit on it? Like, he's getting up there. Like, is 10
I
going to
thought
be
Fallout-
the climactic?
I kind of thought Fallout would be the last one, to be honest.
I think Tom Cruise, and this is very localized, but I have the same opinion about Tom Cruise that I do about Tom Izzo coaching basketball at Michigan State University. Sorry, folks. Is that they're going to do it until they physically cannot do it. So if he's able to do it for a 9th film,
If Harrison Ford can do it.
that's what I'm saying. Like we talked about it, is like, it's crazy that these two guys are making two of the biggest
40
blockbusters.
years ago, they were the top box office stars.
You could be at
40 years
you could
ago.
literally be at a movie in the 80s, and it would be the same guys bringing people in,
Yeah.
and they're
It's-
still making people laugh. They're creating exciting adventures, like movies that you want to see in the theaters. So it's like, if Tom Cruise is not going to continue to do Mission Impossible, somebody else needs to, or something like it, because
they can't. If Tom isn't in it, it's not the same. It's got to be something
I
different.
mean, Tom will certainly be making movies for many years because he's still a tremendous dramatic actor.
I think he'll.
we have yet to see
He'll
him-
get back in his dramatic
Yeah.
vibe soon.
We really have yet to see him play a flawed character, but I mean, he's a tremendous dramatic actor. I don't know. I mean, I would love to see another Mission Impossible, but I don't need it.
I don't either. I think we're going to learn a lot after Dead Reckoning Part 2. I think that's going to really indicate where this is going. I think, if anything, what we would see is, okay, so he's 63. I think we would see a big gap, and he would pull a Harrison Ford, come back as a 70-year-old and do...
And it'd be like obvious that he's not the same that he once was.
Yeah, and it would be similar to what they've done with Indiana Jones. I think that's probably what's going to happen, is there's going to be a 5 to 10 year gap. He's going to come back and play the team lead curmudgeon. You're going to get a younger person in there. I think that's probably going to happen. But I think what we know, I think the Chris McQuarrie, Tom Cruise partnership like era is going to end after Reckoning. What happens after that? It's up to
Tom Cruise is as old in this movie as John Voight was in Mission Impossible 1.
I remember looking that up.
We talked about that.
when we were
Yeah.
on Rogue Nation. And I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I cannot believe it.
Modern medicine.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a
And
beautiful thing.
pole climbing.
And pole
Pole
climbing.
climbing.
And pole
Yes,
climbing.
It's
Mountain jumping.
whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, let's light this fuse and self-destruct. This was amazing. It was such a blast.
Go see the movie.
Go see the movie,
Go see it.
listeners. Thank you for going on this journey with us. Of course, we will have more to come for Podcast Impossible. And potentially, we have another essentially full year until this movie comes out. Obviously,
Have they already filmed it?
No, they're still
They
in the
filmed some of
process.
it.
Yeah.
We're gonna do rankings. We're gonna do a draft. But we might be able to sneak another rewatch series in. Mike's like, gosh, so much work. But we'll keep you posted on that. There's been some requests. There's been some talk about certain series. There's a lot on the table. But of course, you can find it all in the Least Important Things feed. That's where all the good conversation, the joy will be. Andy, thanks again for having us, for hosting us, and for going down this adventure with us.
Thanks for having me back on. This was great.
I'm glad we didn't have to pull you away from your vacation to do this one.
This is better. This is better.
Mike.
What?
Let's close it out.
Mike, will you close in prayer?
Lord's Prayer, preferably.
Until Dead Reckoning, Part 2.
Until then.
Peace out, Girl Scout.
Sounds
Sounds like the Family Guy version.
Yeah.